My wife said she was too tired, but there she was, legs tangled with him in the front seat of his truck, parked under the dead neon flicker of a gas station. That cheating snake didn't even look guilty. In that moment, every piece of me cracked, and only one thought remained: I was going to burn it all down. I sat there in the dark, engine off, windows cracked just enough to let the night air seep in. Across the street, under the broken neon sign of Miller's Gas and Go, sat my wife's legs, bare and stupidly tangled with his, in the front seat of his beat-up Dodge. It wasn't even parked in the back where it could be hidden. No. They were right there, right where the whole world could see. Like it was normal. Like it was nothing. My wife. My lying, cheating wife. A couple hours ago, she said she was too tired to go out for dinner. Too tired to even talk. Slurred her words a little, just enough to make it believable. Said she needed sleep. Kissed me on the cheek, soft, automatic. The way you pat a dog before you leave for work. I watched her go upstairs, watched the bedroom light flick on, then off. 15 minutes later, her phone buzzed against the kitchen counter. It wasn't the buzz that got me. It was the glow. A long, lingering light, like an idiot flare in the dark. I picked it up. Can't wait to see you. Come hungry, winky face. From a number she had saved under Mandy. I stared at it for a long time, thumb hovering. Then I put the phone down. Didn't touch it again. Didn't storm upstairs. Didn't scream. I grabbed my keys. That's how I ended up here, watching my wife, laugh and lean her forehead against his like a lovesick teenager. The gas station's cracked pavement reflected their shadows back at them, broken and stretched, like some cheap horror movie. My wife's foot kicked off her sandal. It clattered against the dashboard. He laughed. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. The skin on my hands felt too tight, stretched over something raw and boiling. But I didn't move. I didn't honk. I didn't slam my door open. I just watched. There was a part of me that didn't believe it even now. That thought maybe it wasn't what it looked like. Maybe there was some innocent explanation. But then his hand slid up her thigh, disappearing under the hem of the sundress I bought her for our anniversary. The one she said made her feel beautiful. The one I worked overtime for. And she let him. Leaned into it. That's when something inside me, something stupid and soft, finally died. I didn't love her anymore. Not in the way that mattered. You can't love something that looks you in the eye and lies to you while it undresses for someone else. No, love was dead. But rage. Rage was alive. Rage was patient. Rage could wait. I pulled out my phone, snapped a few photos. Wide shots. Clear shots. Him grinning like an idiot. Her head thrown back, mouth open in a silent laugh. The timestamp in the corner of the screen. Evidence. Not for screaming. Not for fighting. For court. For the quiet, brutal death of everything she thought she could still keep. I sat there for another 10 minutes, watching, cataloging, memorizing. Every time he touched her. Every time she touched him. Every time they laughed. Then I started the car. Didn't peel out. Didn't floor it. Just rolled away like any other driver passing through the night. The plan was already forming. A clean plan. A cold plan. When you burn something down, you don't throw gasoline and a match at it like a drunk. No. You start small. Controlled. You light the right beams first. You make sure there's no way out. My wife was going to learn that. And by the time she realized what was happening, it would already be too late. I got home before she did. The house was dead silent, save for the hum of the refrigerator. I sat at the kitchen table, the same place where she used to tell me about her day, about promotions and drama at work, pretending she still cared if I listened. I didn't turn on any lights. I wanted the darkness to settle in my bones. I wanted it to sharpen me. Her keys jingled at the door around 1:17 a.m. late enough to be obvious, early enough to be cocky. She came in with her shoes in her hand, trying to tiptoe like a guilty teenager sneaking home past curfew. I could hear the soft pad of her bare feet against the hardwood. The little gasp she made when she saw me sitting there in the dark. "You're awake?" she asked, voice too bright, too casual. "Couldn't sleep," I said. My voice was flat, mechanical. She gave me that fake little smile, the one that used to fool me. "Yeah, me neither. Too much on my mind." Her dress was wrinkled. The same sundress. The one with the tiny blue flowers she wore when she wanted to look innocent. There was a smudge on her thigh. I could see it even in the dim kitchen light. Probably his hands. His mouth. "You smell like gas station tacos," I said. She blinked, startled for just a second, then laughed it off, breezing past me to head upstairs. I grabbed a bite on the way home. Starving. I didn't say a word. Didn't even move. Just watched her back as she climbed the stairs. The sway of her hips that used to mean something. Now it just looked like a liar retreating to her nest. She didn't even notice the faint buzz from her purse as she set it down. Didn't see me note it. Another text from Mandy, no doubt. I stayed at the table long after she closed the bedroom door. The plan sharpened itself in my mind, cold and clear. First thing tomorrow, I would call a lawyer. Quietly. No warning. No confrontation. Then the bank, pull statements, freeze joint accounts she thought were hers to spend. Then the landlord, schedule the lease break under mutual consent, citing irreconcilable differences. All behind her back. She wanted to build a second life behind mine. Good. She could have it, all of it. Alone. But not before I made sure she crawled through the wreckage she created with her own hands. The next morning, she made coffee like nothing happened. She wore one of my old t-shirts, the one with the faded college logo, like it was some kind of armor. Like slipping into something of mine would erase the stench of him still clinging to her skin. I sat at the counter, watching her stir sugar into her cup. 3 times clockwise. Always 3. A stupid ritual she still clung to, even as everything else between us rotted. "Rough night?" I asked. She shrugged, casual. "Yeah, couldn't sleep." Liar. Her phone buzzed against the granite counter. She didn't even glance at it. Too obvious. Too staged. I didn't look either. I didn't have to. I already knew who it was. Instead, I sipped my coffee. Watched her stir. Watched the little tremble in her hand she tried to hide. Watched the way her eyes darted to the phone and back like it might explode. "You work today?" she asked, too lightly. "Yeah." I didn't elaborate. Let the word hang in the air like a loaded gun. She smiled, relieved. She thought she had gotten away with it. Thought the darkness last night had buried her sins deep enough. Good. Let her think that. The lawyer's appointment was set for noon. I'd found one who specialized in divorce cases involving infidelity. Bulletproof contracts. No mercy. I finished my coffee and rinsed the cup, leaving no trace of myself behind. "You want me to pick up anything for dinner?" she called after me as I grabbed my keys. I turned at the door. Looked at her standing there barefoot, trying to pretend we were still us. "Surprise me," I said. She laughed, a little too loudly. A little too brightly. And I left. When I parked outside the lawyer's office, I sat in the car for a minute, staring at my hands on the wheel. They didn't look like my hands anymore. They looked like something mechanical, designed for a different kind of work. I went in. Signed the retainer. Laid out the facts without flinching. Affair ongoing. Photographic evidence. Potential financial misconduct. The lawyer, a thin, sharp woman named Valerie, didn't blink. She took notes. Asked cold questions. Offered colder advice. We would hit her where it hurt. Assets. Reputation. Freedom. By the time I left, my head was clear for the first time in weeks. I didn't need her to confess. I didn't need her to explain. I needed her to lose. That afternoon, I started moving through the second part of the plan. Bank accounts. Emails. Insurance policies. Everything she had lazily trusted me to manage while she was busy tangling herself up in the front seat of someone else's truck. Each click of the mouse was a nail in the coffin. Joint account. Closed. Savings. Transferred to a separate account in my name only. Credit cards. Frozen. All legal. All by the book. She would wake up soon enough in a world where her shiny little lie didn't come with a safety net. At dinner, she made spaghetti. Cheap. Fast. Familiar. She even lit a candle between us like we were still pretending. I watched her push noodles around her plate, babbling about work. Some new policy at the bank. Some coworker drama. She didn't mention Mandy. Didn't mention anything about the night before. But I could see it in her eyes, the flicker of doubt, the creeping suspicion. She felt the ground shifting under her feet. Good. I twirled spaghetti around my fork, smiled at her across the flame, and said nothing. The snake across from me still thought she was hiding the poison. She had no idea the venom was already in her veins. The next few days blurred into a performance neither of us acknowledged. My wife woke up earlier, smiled more, kissed my cheek when I left for work. She texted me things she hadn't bothered saying in years, thinking of you, miss you, can't wait for tonight. Words that once would have cracked my chest open with hope. Now they just looked like wet paint slapped over a condemned building. She was trying. Trying to patch holes she couldn't even see yet. Trying to sell a version of herself she no longer owned. I played my part too. Sent a few texts back. Smiled when she called. All while the clock ticked down in my head. One night, I forgot my phone on the coffee table when I went to shower. When I came back down, she was sitting on the couch, phone in hand, scrolling through my messages. She jumped when she heard me. Oh, I thought it was mine, she stammered, cheeks flushing red. No problem, I said, towel slung over my shoulder. I made sure to keep my voice easy, light. Let her think she had the upper hand. Let her think the guilt was still hers to hide. Later that night, I watched her from the kitchen as she sat in bed, typing furiously into her own phone. Probably texting Mandy. Probably laying down a new set of lies. Probably scrambling to build a wall between the two lives she thought she could juggle. The next morning, I found her purse tipped over in the hallway. Your bag, I said, nudging it toward her with my foot. She rushed over, scooping everything up with trembling hands. Her phone was flashing, a text preview popped up for half a second. Last night was incredible. Miss you already. No name. Just the number this time. She looked up at me, face carefully neutral. I smiled, slow and lazy, and said nothing. The gaslighting started small. She lost her wedding ring at the gym. Forgot plans we made months ago. Misremembered conversations we never had. Each lie stacked on the last, a crooked tower she hoped I wouldn't notice. But I noticed everything. The way she flinched when I touched her wrist. The way she kept her phone face down at dinner. The way she started offering sex like a band-aid, desperate, mechanical, hoping to cover the rot underneath. I refused, every time, with a polite smile and an excuse about being tired from work. Every refusal chipped at her facade. Every cold kiss on the forehead drove a splinter deeper into whatever delusion she was clinging to. Sunday morning, she made pancakes. She hadn't made pancakes in years. She wore nothing but one of my button-down shirts and sang off-key to the radio like we were teenagers again. It would have been sweet once. Now it just looked like a death rattle. I sat at the table, fork scraping the plate, pretending not to notice the way her hands shook as she flipped a pancake that landed lopsided and burnt. You okay? I asked, voice full of fake concern. She gave a bright, empty laugh. Of course. Just, stress. I nodded, cutting into the rubbery pancake without a word. She burned the next one too. She was unraveling faster than I had expected. And I hadn't even touched the real match yet. That would come soon enough. When the right people got the right pictures. When the right accounts dried up. When the locks changed. When the lie she built came crashing down around her. I waited until she left for yoga Sunday night. She liked to pretend it was her time to reconnect with herself. Stretching on a mat, breathing in incense, pretending to heal the parts she broke herself. I knew where she was going. And I knew she wouldn't be back for at least 2 hours. Plenty of time. Her laptop was easy. She wasn't clever, just lazy. The password. Our wedding date. How poetic. The browser history was wiped, of course. Amateur mistake. People forget about sync devices. I opened her cloud account. 10 minutes later, I had everything I needed. Screenshots of text messages. Photos she didn't even bother to hide. Videos, shaky, hurried little clips of motel beds and cheap wine bottles. One of them had the bastard's face full in frame. Kane Stetson. The men she once introduced at a neighborhood barbecue as just someone from work. The man who had been married for 8 years with 2 daughters. The man who now had his hand shoved up my wife's dress, grinning at the camera like a wolf who thought he owned the woods. I downloaded everything to a separate encrypted drive. No emotion. No anger. Just methodical clicks, one after another. I read the messages carefully. The ones she thought were deleted. The ones he sent. The ones she answered. I can't wait to be yours. He's so boring. You're the only thing that makes me feel alive. I wish I could just walk away from everything. When he looks at me, I feel like he sees through me. You were right about that, darling. I saw everything. Next was the financials. Shared credit card statements told their own kind of story. Charges at motels 2 towns over. Fancy restaurants I'd never been invited to. Lingerie boutiques she swore she hated. It was all there. A slow bleeding of our life together, $49.99 at a time. In the back of her closet, hidden behind old winter coats, I found a shoebox. Inside were printed photos. Handwritten notes. A spare key to a storage unit I didn't know she rented. Underneath the notes was a receipt. Payment for a weekend getaway 2 months from now. 2 tickets. 2 names. Hers and his. No room for me. I put everything back exactly as it was. The laptop screen wiped clean. The shoebox tucked back under moth-eaten sleeves. The cloud cleared of activity traces. The perfect crime. When she came home, hair damp from her workout, cheeks flushed from whatever backseat tryst she thought she'd gotten away with, I was already sitting on the couch, TV playing low. "Hey," she said, dropping her gym bag by the door. "Hey," I answered, smiling. Her phone buzzed again. She didn't pick it up. That night, when she slipped into bed beside me, her hand grazing my chest, I didn't flinch. Didn't pull away. I let her lay her head against me. I let her breathe me in like nothing was wrong. I let her drift off, thinking she was safe. And while she slept, dreaming her stupid, lying dreams, I stared at the ceiling and built the final pieces of the plan. Quiet. Precise. Undeniable. The match was in my hand now. And all it would take was a flick of the wrist. By Monday morning, everything was set. I had the evidence sorted into 3 folders. One for the lawyer. One for the bank. One for her employer. Each one labeled plainly with her full name and the word confidential, no threats, no accusations, just facts neatly stacked in chronological order. Nothing she could deny. Nothing she could twist. Only the mirror of her own choices staring back at her. The lawyer loved it. Said most cases like this were built on rumors and emotion. But what I brought her? Bulletproof. Clear timelines. Financial records. Messages explicit enough to remove all doubt. By filing preemptively, we would move for a fault-based divorce citing adultery. In our state, that meant I could lock her out of alimony, split the assets favorably, and file injunctions to freeze anything she tried to hide. My lawyer smiled a sharp little smile. When you hit her with this, she said, it won't just be the marriage that collapses. It'll be her whole life. Good. That was exactly the point. At the bank, I closed the last remaining joint accounts. Filed the necessary paperwork to separate our names on investments and insurance policies. Secured my retirement accounts against any future claims. It was clinical. Efficient. One signature after another, each one tightening the noose a little more. By noon, she had no financial power left. She just didn't know it yet. Next came her job. Her affair partner, Kane, didn't just work around her bank, he had inside connections. The kind that raised eyebrows when a married loan officer started slipping him favorable treatment. I compiled the screenshots and receipts carefully. Times, locations, expense reimbursements linked to their secret rendezvous. Enough for the ethics board to open an internal investigation. I wasn't going to make a public scene. I was going to hand the evidence to the right hands, quietly, and watch them tear her world apart one meeting at a time. The final step was her circle. Friends. Family. Everyone who thought we were the perfect couple. Everyone she lied to while sneaking off behind my back. I crafted a short, brutal message. No rage. No tears. Just a simple text. You deserve to know the truth. Please see attached. Attached were the photographs. The receipts. The messages. No commentary. No defense. Just her choices, naked under the cold light of reality. By the time she would find out, it would already be too late. The accounts would be empty. The locks would be changed. The job would be slipping through her fingers. And the people she leaned on to lie for her would already know the truth. There would be no speech she could make. No tears she could cry. No story she could spin to make the pieces fit again. That night, she asked me if I wanted to go out for dinner. You know, she said, wrapping her arms around my waist, just the two of us. Like old times. I smiled. Sure, I said. I'd love that. She looked so relieved. So hopeful. It made what was coming almost poetic. I booked the reservation myself. A nice place. Downtown. Somewhere public, somewhere she couldn't cause a scene. We would eat. We would toast. And then, over dessert, I would slide the first envelope across the table and watch her world burn from the inside out. We sat by the window. Her favorite spot. She ordered wine. I ordered whiskey. She smiled like she thought she had won. She was wearing the silver necklace I gave her last Christmas. The same night she told me how lucky she was to have me. The same night, it turned out, she was already his. You look happy, she said, sipping her wine. I smiled. I am. The waiter brought the check, I waved it off and asked for dessert. She clapped her hands, laughing, thinking the night was going perfectly. It was. Just not for her. When the cheesecake arrived, I reached into my jacket and pulled out the envelope. Heavy. Solid. Final. I slid it across the table without a word. She blinked. Smiled awkwardly. What's this? She asked, half laughing. I didn't answer. I just watched. She opened it. Pulled out the photos first. The gas station. The motel. Her legs tangled with canes under the dirty streetlight. Her face went pale. Her mouth moved, but no sound came out. Then the printouts of the messages. I wish I could leave him. I can't stand lying to his face anymore. Every word she thought had disappeared. Every filthy, desperate line. Finally, the divorce papers. Pre-signed. Filed. Waiting only for her acknowledgement of service. She looked up at me, eyes glassy. Mark. I can explain, she started, voice cracking. Don't, I said. Come. Cold. You're embarrassing yourself. She looked around the restaurant, panicking now, seeing the polite stares from nearby tables. Seeing the distance between us, physical, emotional, permanent. I stood up slowly, tossing enough cash onto the table to cover the meal. Your lawyer will explain the rest, I said. She reached out for me, tears finally spilling over. I stepped back. Don't touch me, I said, loud enough for the nearest tables to hear. For the first time, she realized she wasn't the victim. She was the spectacle. I walked out without looking back. Left her sitting there with the papers in her lap, the lies in her throat, the whole restaurant pretending not to watch her fall apart. The cold night air outside felt cleaner than it had in months. It wasn't just freedom. It was justice. And it was only the beginning. By morning, the first cracks had already become fractures. Her sister called me at 8:07 a.m., voice tight. "Mark, what's going on? I just got these pictures." I told her to ask her perfect sibling. Hung up before she could stammer out another lie. By noon, her job called. Formal email, full of sterile HR language. They were investigating ethical concerns. They had temporarily suspended her access to accounts. Translation: she was finished. The landlord emailed me. Said he had received my request for early lease termination, citing significant marital disruption. Said he'd be happy to work with me directly. My wife, no, not my wife anymore, tried texting me around 2 p.m. "Please, can we talk? It's not what you think. We can fix this." I didn't answer. I didn't even read them fully. I just watched as the little typing bubble appeared and disappeared, again and again, like a drowning wreck clawing at the surface. That night, she showed up at the house. Banging on the door, calling my name, sobbing so hard her voice cracked. "Mark, please. Let me explain. You don't understand." I watched through the peephole, detached. Saw her mascara streaked across her face, her hands clutching the doorframe like it was the only thing holding her together. I thought about opening it. For a second. Then I turned off the porch light and walked away. Let her scream into the dark. Let her realize that apologies mean nothing when trust is already buried 6 feet under. The next morning, my lawyer served her officially. Papers. Court dates. Asset divisions. Clear, cold, legal language, stripping away whatever illusions she had left. A few hours later, Kane's wife posted a public message on Facebook. Photos. Messages. Evidence. Tagging my wife's name. Tagging Kane's business page. No anger. Just a simple announcement: I believe in transparency. It went viral within our town by sunset. By midnight, Kane's company had shut down its social media. Under construction, it said. Translation: drowning. Her friends stopped calling. Her family stopped defending her. She was radioactive now. A walking, talking warning sign. Every bridge she thought she could run back across had already been set on fire. And she was standing alone, watching them burn. I sat at the window that night, a cup of coffee cooling in my hand, and watched her car crawl by. She didn't stop. She didn't honk. Just rolled past the house she used to call home, smaller and smaller in the rearview mirror. She was looking for something that wasn't there anymore. And she would never find it again. The divorce finalized 3 months later. No contest. No trial. Just signatures on a piece of paper that ended a decade of my life in 30 dry seconds. She didn't show up to the final hearing. Sent her lawyer instead. Cowardice until the very end. The judge stamped the documents with a bored thud of the gavel. It was over. I changed my number the same afternoon. Closed old accounts. Moved into a new apartment across town. Nothing fancy, clean, quiet, anonymous. Left the furniture behind. Left the wedding photos in a trash bag by the curb. Left the memories to rot where they belonged. She tried emailing once. "I miss you. I'm lost without you. Please." I deleted it without opening it. Blocked her without hesitation. Some things don't deserve an answer. A month later, I ran into Kane at a gas station, of all places. He looked like hell. Gaunt. Sleepless. Smelling like sweat and regret. I didn't say a word. Just looked him in the eye until he dropped his gaze and scurried inside. Cowards always fold when you stare long enough. Her family stopped mentioning her. Friends we shared quietly unfriended her one by one. She drifted like a ghost through the edges of town. A rumor. A cautionary tale. The woman who destroyed her own life with both hands and thought she could still be loved afterward. Sometimes late at night, when the world is so quiet you can hear your own heartbeat, I think about that night at the gas station. Her legs wrapped around him. Her laugh piercing the stillness. Her betrayal hanging in the air like spoiled meat. I don't feel rage anymore. Not sadness. Not even pity. Just silence. Cold. Absolute. Eternal. I don't need revenge songs. I don't need drunken confessions. I don't need closure. She buried herself. All I had to do was step back and let the dirt fall. And that was the real ending. Not a bang. Not a scream. Just a door closing, a final lock clicking shut, and the quiet, permanent knowledge that some things, once broken, should stay broken forever.